He's cemented at least at number 2,
But why
possibly
can't we put
number
Giannis
1.
up there?
Giannis?
Why is Giannis being?
Because Milwaukee was struggling.
Because you know Don.
Need to congratulate SGA as your 2025 MVP. Congratulations to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander for winning the 2025 NBA MVP. Well, he hasn't won it yet. I'm going to show you why we need to revamp and rethink the MVP award entirely. So if you want more content like this, subscribe to the YouTube channel. So before I explain why I think Shai Gilgeous-Alexander should win it, there are too many narratives that affect the award from year to year. It's completely broken. It's inconsistent. The criteria for one year is completely different from the criteria in another year. Well, the first problem is, what does MVP even mean? It stands for most valuable player. But what does that mean? Does that mean the best player every single season? No, or else LeBron James and Michael Jordan will have multiple MVPs. Does it mean the player with the most points every season? No, because you already have the scoring title for that. So it's very hard to quantify. It's not just about box score numbers. It's not just about box plus minus. So what really is the MVP about? So I'm going to look back at the last 10 MVPs and we're going to break down why exactly they won it, and that should help us dictate who should win it for this season. So in the 2014-15 season and 15-16 season, Stephen Curry wins them both. I think it's pretty clear cut why. He introduced a completely new style of play, revolutionized the game of basketball with all his threes and all of his just shot making ability. But most importantly, the Warriors were incredibly dominant. They were winning games. In 2015, he sat out most of the fourth quarters. So even though his stats at 23 points a game aren't as, standoffish, they don't really stand out to you, that's because he didn't really play in the fourth quarters because they were blowing everyone out. And then in 2016, he ends up winning unanimously. He leads the league in scoring. They break a record for the most wins ever, the most dominant team ever. They end up going 73-9, breaking the Chicago Bulls record. And he leads the league in steals as well. So that's a no-brainer why it goes to Steph Curry. I don't see any problem with that. So this is kind of the first place where the narrative, or kind of the criteria that was chosen to give the award, changes. 2017, Steph Curry is still in his prime. The Warriors add Kevin Durant and even are more dominant. They don't get as many wins, but they're even more dominant and go on to win the championship. But when you add another top 10 player or MVP caliber player, that takes away from the votes of the other players. So they both take away from each other. Steph and KD took away from each other, which left room for somebody else to take it. And Russell Westbrook ends up winning it for breaking a shattering record, or re-breaking a record, averaging a triple-double with 30 points a game, which hasn't been done since Oscar Robertson many, many moons ago. So despite being the 6th seed, if you do something historical and produce some good numbers, you don't even have to have a top 4 or 5 team in the league to be able to win the MVP. But then in 2018, James Harden wins the MVP. He does something historical himself, averaging 36 points a game, revolutionizing how players ISO, just revolutionizing basketball with his own style of play. And it hadn't been seen since Michael Jordan, averaging that many points a game consistently over a season. So he wins the MVP then. And then in 2019 and 2020, they both go to Giannis. He is an amazing elite two-way player and led the Bucks to the first seed in each season. So this is where the problem kind of begins, because one could argue, I argue this, many people will argue, that LeBron James throughout all of these years was still the best player in the world and still produced MVP caliber seasons. So why wasn't he the MVP? A lot of people say it's voters fatigue, because the Cavaliers were still a top team going to the finals in most of these seasons. So that's kind of the problem now. And is it fair that voters fatigue no longer exists for Nikola Jokic? If we look at other sports, like in football, it was pretty clear cut who the Ballon d'Or, which is their version of MVP, was going to. For 15 years straight, it was either going to Lionel Messi or Cristiano Ronaldo. There was no in between. And it was pretty clear cut. Yes, obviously when Messi won, Ronaldo had some caliber seasons that could have easily won it in a given year. And same thing for Messi. But it was clear and no one could really debate it too much. So what I think the league needs to do is revamp it again. So set a clear criteria of what an MVP actually is, what it means to be the most valuable player. Is it points per game, certain amount of assists a game, certain amount of wins? But even then it's going to be tricky because a lot of people aren't going to be happy with what the criteria means. And are still going to find a way to change it from season to season and moving the goalpost, which is what I'm not happy with. But maybe they're doing this on purpose. All the big talk shows like ESPN and First Take, for example, won't have much to talk about if it's the same guy, like LeBron James winning the MVP every single year, or Giannis winning it every year, because he himself is suffering from votes fatigue. He's arguably having an amazing season as well with the Bucks, and no one's really talking about it. So parity kind of helps for the ratings, I guess. But what do you think? Leading the league in scoring, elite defender as well, top 3 in steals, so he's versatile. Is Jokic versatile? I don't know. He's beating all the best teams in the league. It's not just about scoring, it's that he's consistent and it leads to winning. That's what it's all about. But for some reason, all of a sudden, people want to change it into stats. If it was about stats, we'd give it to the guy with the most points per game every year. No, but that's for the scoring title. Or we'd give it to the guy with the most triple-doubles every year. They gave it to Westbrook for 1 year. He averaged a triple-double again for multiple seasons after that, and he didn't get an MVP for that. So let's stop moving the goalpost and changing the narrative. If you made it this far, like the video, leave a comment on what video you want to see next. I'm open to taking any ideas. And yeah, who's your MVP? Is it SGA or is it Jokic?